Hey, welcome everybody to Good Thinking. It's a show for everyday people dealing with everyday life. And I'm Scott Wilson, global pastor here at Oaks Church, and Peter Pignon, the greatest counselor in the world. I say that every time. Don't get all upset about it. It's my opinion, and it's our show. I can say it. Yeah. So you are the greatest as far as I'm concerned.
Well, you can say it. I'm just not going to say it.
Yeah. Hey, I just want you to know it's so good to be with you again. And excited about today. We're talking about this incredible subject of rest.
Yes.
Which is kind of funny that I just ran in here as fast as I could.
Yeah.
Still kind of breathing heavy because I was on a Zoom call with a bunch of pastors really talking about some of the difficult things happening in our nation right now with what happened in Minneapolis with George Floyd and just the grieving of that, and had pastors from across the nation on there were talking about it, and we were praying together. I mean, it was very difficult and challenging, which isn't just a pastoral issue. It's all of us.
We're all going through it.
But we care about it and talking about it. So I was trying to get off that phone call and then realize, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to be at the church. So then I get in the car and I'm driving here and I'm calling you and say, Peter, don't get mad. I'm going to be there as fast as I can. And you're like going, are you really coming? You know? And then I'm driving, and then there's traffic. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So then I get off Service Road and I'm coming down the road. And then on the way while I'm doing it, I figure, well, somebody's calling. I'll answer the call while I'm driving. And so then had a lawyer call and talked about different things going on with a situation it's all good. It's going to work out great, but just getting some advice. And so I'm on that phone call while I'm walking in here. Yep, okay. And then I hang up and I say, okay, so what's our topic again? I can't remember. And you said rest. I said, you've got to be kidding. So
it's a timely one.
Come on. This is like made for me and maybe for you. So let's talk about rest. I think it's a big deal. Why is, first of all, just what does it mean, rest? Because to me, I think it can be just a physical thing, but I think it's more than that.
Yeah, I know a lot of us feel like, okay, we'll rest when we have nothing to do. So part of it is that you stop working. That's the half of it. Then the other one is, what is it that you're going to start doing? And that is the doing something that's restorative. So you have energy, you have whatever it is, how we define that. There's so many different ways, but we have this energy inside of us, and everything we do takes a piece of that or a percentage of that. And so it gets depleted, and rest is stopping working long enough to get some more of that back.
Did you come up with that definition? That's a genius definition.
Well, there's a little bit of research over the years. This has been a 15-year process.
That's amazing, because a lot of times it's almost like, what is light? It's the absence of darkness or, whatever like this. And that's kind of what you're saying is that sometimes we think that rest just means I'm going to stop something instead of something that we do need to engage to restore. Yeah. Like a battery, hooking up the battery to refuel.
Yes. And I think that's what's so hard for me is in the beginning of my professional life, I just thought it was to stop working. If I could stop working, then I should be resting. It should happen automatically. And so many of us have been at home a lot more in these months. And we think that if we're just home and we're stopping doing all these other things, then we should be resting.
Yeah, isn't that weird? I think that's so counterintuitive that most of us think resting is the lack of work or the not working. Wow. But we all know it may be that we think that intuitively, but we all know it's not true, because all of us know what it's like to go on a vacation and come back worn out, or to be on COVID-19 and sheltering in place and be exhausted, or take a day off and still be exhausted.
No, Lindsay and I, we reframe and we relabel a vacation. We don't even call it a vacation, because that means that we're going to rest. We say we're going to go on a trip with the kids.
There you go.
We're going on a trip. We're going to take this crazy show on the road, and we're going to pack ourselves into a whole hotel room. And so we're just going on a trip.
We're going on a trip.
Yeah. And then when her and I can go, like, that's more of a vacation or a retreat.
There you go.
We're going to get some of that rest there.
So why is this thing so challenging?
I'm sure there's probably all kinds of reasons, and people are going to get us in the comments and let us know why it's challenging for them. But some of the things that I think we have noticed is that our culture right now, it's elevated in giving honor to the hustle life, to the hurry. So a lot of it is that of like, we're looking at these people that are workaholics, and those are the people we're looking up to. These people that are saying, I'm going to work so hard, make millions of dollars, and as soon as I make enough,
then I'll rest.
Then I'll rest. I'll retire. But right now, there's no rest. Or so all of that is leading to these deeper beliefs. So many people in my office will come and say, Peter, you're telling me that I need to rest. But listen, rest is for lazy people. Rest is a waste of time. So there are these beliefs that are deeper on what rest is, and that makes it challenging to do anything. If you don't believe in it,
right,
you're not going to do it.
So let's talk about why do we think that way? Because you hear that all the time. Just help me on that real quick. On like, is that like your family of origin? Like you grew up in like naps or for sissies, or is it would that be one?
It's both. It's observed. So it's at the big, broad level of culture. It's at the family level, and then its personality goes in. I mean, you hear type A, type B, whatever Enneagram number. I mean, there's a couple of them that people are saying, like, if you're that number, you tend to be more driven, or the disc, or whatever it is. So it's a mix of your environment. It's a mix of the culture. It's a mix of your personality. But deep down, we're all getting these same messages of, man, there's not enough time. We need rest is something that we need to have enough time for, or once I get everything done, then I'll go rest.
It's not a priority, and we're not seeing it as a value, something that we must have or need. It's something that we have to do because you got to get some sleep or whatever, but minimize it so you can maximize what's important.
We'll be right back with good thinking. In the meantime, we want to hear from you. If you have a topic or question you would like us to address on the show, you can submit that by clicking the link in the show description. And don't forget, every submission is an entry into our weekly giveaway, so click that link and tell us what you think.
And what I love is that when you look at the story in Genesis, you see God resting, not because he needed to, but he did it because he wanted to. And I think it was more of a want to thing. And if we really understood the benefits and the holistic value of rest, we would do it. But it's so clouded. It's so clouded for us because God didn't need to rest, but he still did. And now that sin happened, and all these thousands of years later, now we do need it. But even if we didn't need it, if you understood it, you'd want it.
Wow.
And if you've rested, and I know you have because we've had conversation about it, you don't want to live life without it. It's something that becomes so good. And every time that God built rest into every single rhythm. So every day he says, hey, there was morning and there was evening, and it's good, rest. There's like this beat. Boom, rest. Boom, rest. Yeah. Boom. There's that rhythm. Yeah. Get it?
Yep.
And that rhythm of every single day. So there's rest built in every day.
Yeah.
And then there's rest built in every week.
Love it. I want you to think about that. I looked up the Genesis concept with God resting on the seventh day.
Yeah.
And the wording there in the Hebrew means he took a breath.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Isn't that amazing? Because how did he work? By speaking.
Yeah.
He said, let there be light, and there was light.
Yeah.
He spoke everything, which is the speaking out of breath. Yeah. And then on the seventh day, he stopped and he breathed.
Yeah.
Which is our concept of rest is not just the absence of work. It is the recharging of that battery, or it's taking a breath, breathing in what you need. Yeah. Here's the other thing I thought of what you just said is not what we have to, but what we want to.
Yeah.
Think about this. If you go fast, you can only go shallow. If you want to go deep, you're going to have to slow down.
Yeah.
And I think that's funny because sometimes people would say to me like, man, I don't know why you're talking about how important it is to take a day off and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, the devil don't take no day off. I said, yeah, but God did. I don't want to be like the devil.
Yeah.
he isn't my model, you know?
For sure.
And so I
Yeah.
think this challenge, you're right. It's first in our belief system and our convictions that it's
Yeah.
not really a value to us. And I think rest is bigger than just even physical, even though physical is
Yeah.
tied to everything else. But isn't there a sense in which you could be well rested in your body, but your mind isn't? I mean, what is
Yeah.
that important?
Yeah, because I mean, think about so many times we get sleep. So we're sleeping and our body is resting, but when our body wakes up, because we go through sleep cycles, and if our mind is not rested, if we haven't rested well during the day and rested our mind, then it'll be hard to sleep and stay asleep, or fall asleep, or hard to wake up. Everything gets thrown off with the mind because the mind is the manager. It's managing our life. So you can rest in one way and still need rest in another area.
Wow.
Emotional rest, mental rest, spiritual rest, social rest. And this idea, I mean, I love giving books away. So this is so cool. We're giving a book away by Dr. Saundra Dalton-Smith, and she wrote a book on sacred rest. And so she's over here telling us what Scripture's been saying, and she's seeing it in her medical practice, and that there's multiple types of rest that are necessary. And so this is what we're saying. The mind is the manager, so you're not going to rest physically if your mind's not aligned with
So
it.
how do I do that? How do I rest my mind?
I think what we've seen is we walk through this journey. So one thing that gets in the way is grieving. So we talked about grieving. Another one is being able to focus our thoughts on things that are good. God did that. He said, hey, this is good. So gratitude.
Gratitude.
That's one. But then there's so many other details of life is just being able to get those things out. You know, so many times you connect with somebody that you're close to and you just thought stream with them. That's when you know you're really close. When you just let that stuff out. You're clearing out your mind. It's like clearing off your desk and you just let that stuff out. Sometimes we need to do just a free write. Just get that stuff out in written form. But that's what helps us to be aware of all of those things that are actually there. And we start with the mind.
Man, I think this is some incredible information and what we're getting here, but I think it's time for us to take a break.
Yeah.
Got to be intentional here in what we're doing. It's time for our segment, 30 Seconds of Gratitude. All right, Peter, set us up on 30 Seconds of Gratitude and what this is all about and how to do it.
Yeah, I mean, the science is clear. This is one of the best things you can do with 30 seconds of your day. So whether it's small or big, take some time with us right now to make either a mental list if you're driving or an actual list if you're here like us. We're going to get down and make this list and come up with as many things as possible in these 30 seconds. Ready? Let's go. Ready?
Yeah.
Did you get some stuff? Doesn't it go by quick? Every time. It surprises me. I always think, man, it's going to be so long. But I got to 12 things.
You did?
I got to 12 things.
Gosh, you practice way better than me. I think
Man,
you were.
I primed the pump.
All right, go.
Yeah. So my friend Paul, he texted me yesterday just to check in and see how I was doing. And it made my day. I mean, there's so many great things in my life, but that was one thing of like, man, just somebody. I check in with so many people all the time, but somebody checking in on me, man, I have such great friends.
Wow. You know, I was just thinking, man, I'm thankful that, I mean, I'm a pastor, so I think it goes to this for me. Mm-hmm. I'm thankful for God's word, that God's truth is truth.
Yeah.
And even in the subject, like we're talking here about rest, that God set up an example and said, this is how you do it. Mm-hmm. And it works.
Yeah.
And every time I'm in alignment with what he says, it's good.
Yeah.
And if I'm not feeling it's good, then I need to just check in. Okay, which gauge is off? What do I need to do?
Yeah.
And God's so gracious. I love it. I'm thankful for God who tells us how to live abundantly.
That's good. It's a good one.
So part of resting my mind is to get everything that's circling around in my head, write it out on paper, be grateful for what I need to be grateful for, to practice that, deal with the grief of what I need to deal with and handle that. Okay, so I tell you though, I feel like those are good like maintenance deals, but what about when when your engine's blown? Like I can do my changing my oil and getting gas and doing all that and using the metaphor of the car, but what if I'm fried? You know, because there's sometimes I've just felt like, God, I'm messed up. Yeah, I'm worn out in my head.
Yeah, I think that's where we have to know where the need is. So we're already saying we want it. And then you evaluate, you look at your gauges. So we're running with this car analogy. And if you look at the gauge that says that your battery needs something, your battery needs to be charged. If the fuel is low, you go and get some more fuel. Yeah. If the temperature's off, you see what's there. So that's when we go back to this theory of if your mind is going to manage it, but do you need emotional rest? Do you need social rest? Because some people take from us and some people give. Yeah. Wow. You know, is it spiritual? Are you connected to God, or are you spending that time on something that gives you a sense of meaning? So you check your gauges, and then you start there. What's the highest priority?
You got to go through that again. That is genius. So there could be my gauge of the spiritual. That maybe there's a spiritual connection that I'm needing. That maybe I'm neglecting some disciplines or whatever that is in my spiritual realm. Yeah. Maybe it's a physical, like I'm not getting enough sleep. Yeah. Is that right?
Yes,
like
exactly.
This? Maybe, or it may be mental, that I'm going to need to, I got to get some activity mentally, or what's the difference? What's the difference between mental and emotional?
Emotional has to do with expression. So like when we talk about grieving, it needs to be expressed. Gratitude needs to be expressed. So we need not only the way that we're thinking about it, but we need to get it out. We need to get it out, and it needs to be validated. So we've kind of been walking through these concepts, and this is why this is that summary of packaging it all together. It has to get out, because just experiencing the emotion is taking energy. And as soon as we express it, that's when we start to rest. That being able to express the emotion and getting that out.
We hope you're enjoying today's episode of Good Thinking. If you would like more information about the books or resources related to this episode, make sure and check out the links in the show description. And while you're there, because of course you want to be notified of new episodes, do us a favor and hit that subscribe button on our podcast or YouTube page. And now, back to Good Thinking with Scott and Peter.
And then the last one we talked about just a while ago was social, and that is that some people are energized by other people, and some people aren't energized by being around people. But then there's also the truth that there's some people I can be around that does energize me, and other people who drain me. Yes. Right? And so we've got to gauge that.
Who are those people? And I promise you, so many of us have more friends on Facebook and more followers on Instagram and Twitter than that short list of people that you can just go and socially rest with. But we need to know who they are. They need to be on our top list of like, who are those people that we can text? Hey, you know what? Can we just go, play some basketball, go on a walk, get some golf, get some coffee, whatever it is. Those are the different types of rest. Because if you only think of it as the absence of something, then you're not thinking about these things that you can do that are going to restore.
So you mean if I look at my social gauge and I'm worn out socially, see, in my mind, I would think sometimes that means call my best friends or call my people, and to go out. Sometimes it may mean just be by myself. So what's the difference on that, and how do I know which one of those I want?
It's a different gauge. I think that's where you just have to realize, like, if you're starting to feel lonely, if the emotion that you're feeling is lonely or isolated, then you replenish with that social rest. Now you're going and you're connecting with people. So we've talked about that before, that you really need that connection there. If it's something else of where you have so many thoughts and you just haven't had the time to process them, then that might be more of a journaling day. That might be more of a reading a fiction book or something that's non-work related in that way. So you're just having these different activities that are within these categories. And by the way, we are putting there's a rest quiz by Dr. Dalton-Smith, and she will evaluate all these different areas and then send you a response of like, hey, this is how you're doing.
Really?
These are the types of rest that you need to prioritize.
Okay. I'm going to take that for sure, because I haven't seen it yet, but I need that for sure. So like one last question here. What is it that like, how do I know I'm getting enough rest or I'm not getting enough rest besides just I feel tired? I mean, how do I know what's enough rest?
I think that that's obviously different for everyone, but you ask yourself the energy question. We see in the greatest commandment, Jesus reiterated the Old Testament said, you love God with your heart, mind, soul, and strength. We usually emphasize the heart and the mind and the soul, and these are concepts that we love, and it's very important. But what about that strength? So checking that strength gauge. Are you waking up feeling rested? How are you doing at 2 p.m.? What can you already plan for that day to help you make it through? So you're looking at your energy gauge, because that's not going to lie to you. So sometimes people will gauge it 1 to 10. So you might say, hey, where's my energy today? 1 to 10, or some people like the 1 to 100. But either way, that's that gauge that is going to tell you, hey, this is where you're at, and this is what you can do. So when I only have 30%, I start conserving energy. I'm like, I'm about to go home and my family needs me. So I could get that extra project done, but then I'll have nothing left for them.
Wow, that's
and I'm not
so
going to do
brilliant.
that today.
So you're planning, understanding holistically in your life. It's not about 100% of me is going to be given 9 to 5 at work or at the office, but what I'm doing at home in my marriage and with my kids, I messed that up.
I only have one tank.
Yeah, exactly. There isn't a family tank and a work tank. There's one tank.
Yes.
So I blew that, Peter. The first probably 3 years, maybe 3 years of starting out when I got married. I just didn't have enough wisdom to know what was going on until my wife, Jenny, looked at me one day and she goes, I'm tired of getting your leftovers.
Yeah.
And the kids deserve better than leftovers. Yeah. And that was just going, you're coming home, taking off your shoes, putting on shorts and a shirt, comfortable shirt, and sitting down on the chair and thinking, I'm done. And yet we're here. And so I had to start thinking, wait, my day doesn't end there. My day doesn't end even when the kids go to bed. I mean, my day ends somewhere out there where Jenny's included, the kids are included, whatever else needs to be done. That's brilliant. Yeah. And so we look at it, and if I'm at 30% or I need to be replenished somewhere, I like that on the day. But as I'm evaluating my life, and let's say I'm at, you know what, right now I'm feeling like I'm at about a 5 or whatever. I don't just think about it overall energy. Now I go to the gauge, as you're saying, and looking spiritual. Where is it that I'm needing to check? Yeah. That's brilliant.
Because all of those areas, those 7 areas of rest, are pulling from the same energy tank. And if we do not conserve and manage that energy, then we're not going to love well. I mean, I flipped out on my kids so many times because I didn't pay attention to that tank. And this is, I mean, you're confessing and, sharing openly with us, but man, I was there too. I thought since I was working 8 hours a day, I could do 8 counseling sessions. I mean, nobody told me, hey, buddy, you gotta slow down. And so I had to figure out, and I experimented for weeks of how many sessions can I do a day and still have enough for each session and have enough for going home and have enough for all of the volunteer stuff, everything else that I want to do, going to church. Like I budgeted my energy, but my mind had to do that. That's why the mind is so key here. But I got it wrong. I had to figure out, what was that? What did that look like? And it even changed. Like I used to do sessions every hour. And now I put 15 to 30 minutes in between every session so that I can rest. I'm in this rhythm of I counsel, and I'm resting, and I'm getting ready, thinking about that person, writing down notes, praying for them, then going to the next person. And it helps so much more. Instead of doing 8, I'm doing 5. And it's so worth it. It's worth it to have enough for my people at work and my people at home.
And sustainability for life.
Yeah.
Because we got to think about, can we do this for the next 15, 20, 30 years? Yeah, depending on how old you are. I'm getting old, so now my numbers are getting smaller, So, hey, I think this has been really, really good. Thanks, man.
Yeah, of course.
All right, it's time for the coolest segment of all, #AskACounselor. Here it is. Here's our question. What are some things we can do besides just shutting down and watching Netflix? So this is a question from one of our listeners, part of our Good Thinking family, who's basically saying, okay, rest, I get it. It's important. But what are some of the things I can do besides just like, okay, sitting in a chair and binging on Netflix or Amazon Prime Video,
Yeah. Yeah, this is a great question, and I'm so glad that our listener brought it up. I think it's so important for us to think in this way. I hear so many spouses. You know when you want to know what's really going on, you ask a spouse. I hear so many spouses telling me, Peter, please help my spouse get a hobby. And so that's what I'm going to say is experiment and find a hobby.
When did Jenny come talk to you?
You can invest in, because that's the difference. In work, there's competence. There's a metric of like, how do I get good at this and how do I maximize? But with a hobby, let me tell you mine. Okay. Mine is skateboarding. Okay? I don't have to be good at it. I'm not doing all these Tony Hawk type things, but I feel, this guy, 33-year-old Mexican me, just grooving and moving, listening to rap music on a skateboard.
So you have your earphones on?
Yeah.
Or earbuds?
Are you I'm combining two. I'm listening to music and I'm skateboarding.
Wow.
It's a hobby.
Yeah.
So people are like, man, you're not that good at it. It doesn't matter. It's a hobby.
Yeah.
And you know what? When I come back home, I'm restored. I mean, it feels so good. So that's what I would say is you want to find something that actually makes you feel good afterwards. Because we're looking for that. Can you say, oh, that was good? God gave us that. Like, was it good?
Yeah.
And so many times I've binge watched. Man, I've watched a whole season or I've watched a bunch of episodes and I don't feel good afterward. I wanted to. I thought, okay, well, one episode didn't do it. Maybe another one. So man, I get it. I know where this question's coming from. It's the same with social media. Mm-hmm. Like I'm looking for that connection. I'm looking for that social rest in social media because you'd think you'd get it from there, but scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and I can't find it and I don't feel good afterward. So that's what we're looking for is what is that hobby or what is that thing that you can do that you can say, this was good.
Gosh, that was good. So powerful. I'm looking for the thing that afterwards on the inside, I can feel that was good.
Yeah, that was good. And then you rest. You rest for that day or, you whatever it is. So hobby is the place to start because that's where a lot of us, if we're going to cheat something, we usually go to our hobby. And I'm like, oh, well, that's not a need. I don't need to skateboard.
Yeah, you do.
Thank you.
Yeah, you do. Hey, this has been a great show, Peter, man. I love this. And thank you guys for being with us here on Good Thinking. It's a show for everyday people dealing with everyday life, just like us, just like you. So thanks for being with us. I'm Scott Wilson. This is Peter Pignon. Until next time.